Cast will be starting in about 5 minutes, 7 minutes. So welcome one and all. It's Julian. I'm back with a new episode of my live stream. And today I am going to be discussing the issues of the digital art market in the future and how we're going to get through dealing with buying and selling and consuming art in an environment which doesn't really isn't really conducive to physical interaction. And of course, with the arts, it's always a question of being able to see things and to experience the objects themselves. So I fully understand that form of interaction may or may not play a major role. So hi, Jan. I hope you speak English. If not, let me know, and then we can switch to German. I've freed you up to be able to speak. You can also ping me in the chat if you would like to do so. I'm trying to keep my eyes on, or in the Q&A, I'm trying to keep my eyes on all parts of this at the same time as I'm doing this all myself. It's a bit challenging. What else do we have here? And my father is there again. Allow the talk. And there's Taylor. My favorite people are coming around. There we go. Wait a second. Chat. Hello, Jan. Turn your microphone on and I'll be able to hear you.
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Lovely.
Hey, awesome.
Okay. So I'm going to start today by taking a step through some standard platforms that I use. And it'd be interesting to hear your opinions on it. Artsy is, I think, well known, and certainly is now, which, it's become like one of the go-to places for the arts to discover things. And here, we see the marketing aspect directly visible. Here you see artworks and, some with pricing. Let me see if we can find one here which has a solid price and not a bracket price. That's not a lot of popular work for a site that has that much in it. All right, here we go. We'll go to the Bansky. And here I could go through and, I get this information and so on, some background info, and then I have this kind of experience, which I could go here and go to buy now, and then, I would have to register. And I'm looking at all of this through an anonymous window because I want to make sure that I'm getting the experience without my login data. So, in this case, Artsy is kind of a, what is it? It's a listing it's a blog with user content and purchasable artworks with this filtering system and so on. So we could find, work like this, which, from my experience as a gallerist, we in the years, I started using Artsy in 2014. And in all the years that we've used Artsy, we've sold one single picture through this platform, one. And it costs us several thousand euro a year to publish here. So, okay, so that's that. Now, Ocula is a relatively new platform, similar to Artsy. It's fair-based or event-based, and has work that you can, dive in and buy. But here in this case, you would inquire about the work, and this would then be forwarded to the gallery if you were, and the deal would actually happen between you and the gallerist in a separate platform. But fundamentally, it's kind of a similar idea. There's different galleries that you can go into, and you can, like Les Mêmes Alpines, it's an international gallery, and then they have these pages. And a lot of galleries have these kind of installation views, which, I mean, from on a personal note, it's like a visual language of artwork being shown, which I'm not exactly sure if that's actually a functional way to do it. Okay, so that's Ocula. Then we have ArtNet, which is the oldest and most well-known system. ArtNet, of course, is also the database, which is pretty much the standard for the art market. And there's been others that have tried to catch up. ArtPrice is one that's doing well, but that's a purely research-based system as far as I remember. ArtNet has started as a database of auction results. And that's an interesting topic, which we're going to have to discuss in a moment as well, and has now translated or migrated, or no, expanded is a better term, into a site which has gallery pages and also the ability to buy artworks. So, and again, here we see these standardized kind of, let's show some indecipherable artwork on a big white wall and make our space look huge kind of experiences. Like, I mean, what is that? Sorry. I just, things like this. I do this myself, but it annoys me all the same. And then we can go through here and see these artworks. And here we have to contact the gallery. Price on request, which is another question, price on request. Okay. So that's that. ArtRabbit is a platform I recently discovered through some random events, which is more, there's my gallery. Huh, who knew? It's more exhibition and location based, which I think makes sense. It's kind of the direction that I tend to be leaning as well. And then we can go through here and find galleries. So if we go back to home, then I'll just be this way and look at my own exhibition. Anyone who knows my father will know that that's him, and in the background that's Lizette Waddell. So this is an exhibition that's going on at our gallery right now, except that you can't visit because everything's closed. And this gives you a bit more context. All right, so we have that. And then we'll move on from this one to Galleries Now, which is also, I think, interesting. They're doing this this thing with virtual reality, which I think is kind of a neat idea, but it's all based on open source code. So it's probably going to become something that you can do via Google very soon, which means that it's just a matter of buying a camera for about 600 euro, and then you can make these virtual reality spaces yourself, which I know Galleries Now is going to hate me for saying that. Now, I mean, this is kind of cool, but it's, yeah, this is all going to become possible very soon for everybody. So Galleries Now has a corner on this at the moment. I think it's a good service they're doing, but this is probably as close as getting to a gallery actually will be at this stage. Problem is there's really no interaction with this. So you can see these pictures, but there's nothing you can do with them. But nonetheless, it's well done. So that's that. And then I'll show my own homepage just for a moment. What we've been doing of recent is I've chosen to go a route that is based on context, which Now this is here all in German because we're primarily in Germany. What this does is it gives you the artworks that you can buy in the context of the exhibition, which means that there's no real shop available here. It just shows you works that are in the exhibition, which you can then purchase. And the idea behind why I would like to, or why I would do it this way, is it leaves the works inside of a specific context, which means that it gives me as a curator digitally the ability to put the works together in a proper sequencing or proper manner. Yeah, so much for that. One of the major issues I think that's going to be happening, and it's going to be coming up, is how do people see an artwork? I mean, you know, as lovely as this reproduction here is, and this picture is actually torn this way. I told this story a while ago. This was torn by Ed van der Elsken himself. So this is not a crappy print. This is more a well-loved print. The big question is, how are people going to interact in the future? I mean, what's the method that people are going to use or accept as buyers or as consumers to interact with a gallery? Is a web stream, like a video conferencing? Is that going to be a technology that will actually function for this? And if so, how? You know, I can. I've got this poll that I have set up here, which I'll launch now, and everyone can have a look at it. Well, 2 people, 3 of us actually. You know, the question I ask myself is how can I give a collector the experience of seeing the artwork and of kind of really getting the feel of the object if all they're seeing is a screen with a bunch of pixels? And I don't know how the market's going to respond at this stage. I imagine people will start to buy through platforms like this, because I think that there's really no other way to actually see art in the future, because we're dealing with an environment in which the viewing of art is going to become step by step more difficult because of travel restrictions and health restrictions, particularly when I consider the fact that a large part of the active art buying community are people who are a bit more advanced in age because they're the ones who have the money to spend. So does anybody have any thoughts to this?
Well, you know, I'm a photographer. I'm represented by Bernheimer in Munich, Lucerne, Galerie 51, and then a gallery in Monaco, and also some other places. You know, you'll find me on Artsy, and I sold quite a few through Artsy. But what happens normally is, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm listening.
Okay, cool. Well, normally it happens, you know, people find it on Artsy and then contact either directly me or a gallery. I don't have the experience, you know, that they really buy through Artsy. This maybe happened 1 or 2 times.
This is your work.
Yeah, that's my work, some of my work. So then, but there's another platform. You really should look that up. It's called First Dips. It's amazing. You know, it seems like a lot of galleries are going towards that one because it's not so expensive like Artsy. Artsy is insane. I mean,
yeah, it's really expensive. Can you tell me, spell the name for me.
Okay, I put it in the chat again. I did put it in there already. Let me see. I like this discussion here, this webinar. You know, I think this is the future.
I think so too. I mean, you know, the reason I'm doing it, first dibs, of course.
I think you even find me there. I don't know what's on it right now. A gallery in Munich, Imagis, who is representing me, I think has pictures up there. Firstdibs.com, I think.
Yeah, I've got.
It's also an app. It's also an app on my iPhone. Yeah.
And they have a whole bunch of stuff. Ah, interesting. So let's look at.
And this one is pretty powerful. My goodness.
And your galleries sell through First Dibs?
Yeah, one of them. I think it's one. If you Google, if you put my name in, I think it's one gallery selling through it. Yeah, this is Imagis Gallery in Munich. I think you cannot see the name of the gallery. No.
Oh, interesting. That's probably so that they have to buy through this.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But this one is pretty powerful.
Oh yeah.
And this is much yeah, it's much cheaper than Artsy.
How would that picture look if it were in my living room?
Yeah.
I'm a bit high though. Sorry, I had to say that. That's, I mean, no one was saying that picture that. Anyway. Oh, okay. Yeah, so First Dibs. Well, that's a good tip. I think I remember First Dibs. I had looked at it like years and years ago when they started, and it was, I think, really kludgy back in the day because it just didn't work very well. But that was like 5 years ago.
It's really it's really well now. It's, you know, and they just maybe a year ago expanded into Europe. So here it's not so known. It's very well known in the States.
Okay. Well, that's a very good tip. I mean, First Dibs is why the hell not? We have to. You know, this is actually one of the questions in my poll as well. You know, as a curator, I like to show work in context. You know, I hate things like this listing of just pictures is, for me,
of course,
it's very, very aggravating because it doesn't give, it neither gives the artist nor the gallerist, the curator or the museum, nor really the viewer the ability to actually see how the work fits into anything. Yeah. And I mean, like here, the dog, and then whatever this is, and then
I mean, you can go into a category, and in a subcategories, you can go into black and white portraiture, for example.
Yeah, but even that, I mean, like here, nude photography. I'm going to click on this just because it'll get people to look at the live stream. But like nude photography. So if we take that, you know, nude photography goes from hardcore pornography to highly intellectual work. It's a huge spectrum of material. And to go in and say, okay, we're going to just package everything, all of that, all the ideas that is into nude photography, for me is kind of it's an insult in a way. Of course. And you know, and I don't know if it's solvable at this stage because there may not be a way to resolve those particular kinds of issues because internet technology doesn't allow for it. Yeah, you know, it's the way we've learned to use this are these very basic, simple kind of, you know, almost Lego block, like Duplo block, decision processes. I mean, like here, Jimi Hendrix, I love Hendrix, right? But was that Hendrix? Yeah, that's Hendrix. But that's not a portrait. That's a
No.
concert picture. That's not a portrait. And is that a portrait?
You know,
Yeah.
it's I think what happened, I bought an Irving Penn and I bought an Avedon. So I know what I'm looking for.
Right.
So I'm going to for example, First Dips, yeah, because I know this is where I find the cheapest. Yeah.
Ah, okay.
So that's, I guess, what most people are doing. Or a friend of mine is a big collector. He loves Irving Penn. He bought several Irving Penns. Because it's much cheaper than going to Phillips or another auction house, or Paris Photo. Yeah.
Well,
so there is something going on, I believe, amongst that's my experience with the collectors I have. Yeah. There is something going on with the collector, going online, trying first of all finding the proper price. Yeah. For example, this friend of mine who buys a lot of Irving Penns, he goes and searches for the current price, and he uses these online platforms, all of them, I would even say. Oh, look at this! This is nice.
Yeah, and this is family business. This is a print that my dad made.
Yeah, I know. The best photo I saw, I think 2 years in Paris Photo, was one of your this portrait. You only had this one portrait on your booth.
Ah, yes, that was that was Heinrich Hörle.
Yeah, and I think it was 180,000 or something like this. Yeah.
Yep.
It's absolutely beautiful. My goodness.
I think it's this year where we had.
Yeah.
Come on, Dad. No, this it's 1 year earlier. Let me go back here, 2017. Because 18 we did a Chargesheimer solo show. 18,
this one portrait is just amazing,
Yeah, I love that picture. I so love that. Here,
yeah, this one, exactly. And you have it, I believe, in your office somewhere. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, I had it in my office hanging for a while. It's an extraordinary picture. This is actually an extraordinary stand. And, looking at this picture and this particular presentation, the conversations we had during this particular fair were extraordinary because people were not distracted by, a booth filled with stuff that I was putting there because I hoped to sell a lot. Like, I knew I was probably not going to sell this picture because it was just, that's just a ridiculously bold thing to do. But it worked, and you're mentioning it to me is a voucher of the fact that it did work, because everyone remembers that stand. Like, this is what I'm going to become famous for.
Yeah.
As
no, and seriously, this was the catcher of Paris Photo. This was just amazing. I stood several times in front of this picture, also hoping that you find that I would find you a little bit less busy, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
So, but it's amazing, also the technical aspect. It looks like it's unsharp masked and everything. It's just brilliant in everything. The light, the posing, the face, the print itself. It's just wow.
And it's interesting. It's a 2-generation object, which, of course, we could get into a deep discussion about the object and the art and the idea. This is a print that was done by my grandfather, not my great-grandfather.
Oh, wow.
Which is really interesting because Gunther was an extraordinary printer, as is my father. Just, a different flavor. And each of them interpreted the work on different levels. But the print is immaculate.
Yeah.
You know, it's so perfectly rendered, and the entire group of pictures was done that way. This was done for an exhibition in Mannheim in
Okay.
the very early 70s.
How much is it?
It's still 175.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Something like 180,000 there.
Yeah.
Wow, it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Was for me definitely the highlight of Paris Photo World
Well, thank you.
back then. And also the booth, you know, with every booth you had the feeling it's you cannot really look at the pictures. You know you need to run through it, you know, and get an overview. But this one I felt like you find peace, you know, and you really can look at a picture.
Yeah, it was a big lesson too. You know, I mean, of course, the architecture here was pretty aggressive because this was when you walked along, you know, the fair, of course. So when you walk along that back edge, that's basically a beeline from the VIP entrance. And
Yeah, I know.
this entire area, I basically opened up the end of the space to like decompress, because you know how the hallways in Paris, which probably next year they're not going to be this way if the fair happens at all. You know, big fat if at this point.
Okay.
Like no one knows. That's, you know, COVID-19 and all that. We don't know what's happening. But this really allowed people to stop and look. And
Yeah.
you're confirming the experience that a number of people had also spoken to me about. They said, you know, seeing that picture there and having a moment of quiet to actually experience it was really, really key.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for me, bringing it back to the point that you know, the topic of this discussion is, how do I give that experience to people in a digital platform? Right?
Yeah.
Because as much as this is nice to see this way, this is not this.
Yeah.
And what I'm worried about at this stage is how do we make that happen? How do we get people to have this experience, to be able to really dig into the work?
You know, I think there's no way you can do this online. I looked, you know, I spent a lot of time, or the before this crazy virus thing, you know, I together with a very good friend, we went to all major European museums. Yeah. Okay. And we went to major galleries just to get an overview of what's happening in Europe in the art world. And there, it's so amazing what I see, how especially young people respond to an original image. Yeah. Something they find on the wall. May it be a painting, may it be a photography. You know, and I talked to some people from the Louvre, and they said what they are discovering is that the average age of the visitors is going down. You know, it's more young people. You disappeared. Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. It's more. It's that they find more young people now in the museum than a few years back. So I believe the young generation is looking for something real, and you never can replace the feeling that's creating the emotions that are there. When you look at an original, you never will be able to replace this in a digital form, I believe.
I agree. I fully agree.
So,
and there we have the challenge.
Yes, but I think the normal way of exhibitions is pretty much over. You know, the 3 months exhibition in a normal gallery. I honestly think this is over. I think it's only going to be short exhibitions, 1 or 2 weeks, and more event based. Yeah, and then people, before they want to go to an exhibition, they want to encounter it online. That's also what I believe. So this virtual reality tours you can do in these big museums today, yeah, like in the Louvre or so. Many people are doing this in order to check out, is it worth? Or what should I see? Or what will I see? Yeah. So I went.
Yeah,
I went
I
to
understand.
But I think the gallery, the function of the gallery, the function is still very vital, because it's not only about purchasing the print, you know, or the picture. It's about, you know, seeing a whole collection or a whole body of work and experiencing the feel of it. And you're never gonna have this online.
I agree, and that's exactly the challenge. And now you'd said exhibitions as like 2 to 3 week experiences, like short, really short.
Yes.
Short, poignant, and like events.
Yeah.
The problem with that is it's a lot of work to put a show on.
I know.
And putting a show up for 2 weeks, if I do a show for 2 weeks, that gives me with 6 weeks of vacation. Well, it's basically 25 to 30 shows or 25 shows a year.
Yeah.
Which is almost impossible to do with any form of what's the word I'm looking for? Not education, but scholarship. You know, it's not just about putting pictures on a wall that where
I understand.
And you know, because I would need like any exhibition that we do at the gallery, I've got staff who are doing research, who are putting pictures together, thinking about the context, thinking about, you know, possibly other works that that could be borrowed or, you know, whatever, to get people to understand the context of what we're showing.
Yeah.
They need somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks to do that because of the delays that happen. Things like, you know, people not being reachable or not responding.
Yeah, I know.
So if I have one person working 6 to 8 weeks for every 2 week exhibition, I have 10 weeks times 25. So I have 250 weeks of labor for the year that I have to somehow manage. And it's not doable at the price range unless I'm selling massively blue chip work.
Yeah. I totally understand this. I mean, but on the other side, I mean, you know, with my exhibitions that I've done with Bernheimer or Imagis or other galleries, it is like this, you know, they are 8 weeks long or 10 or 12 weeks. And a lot of people come for the opening. I totally understand this. I mean, and at the opening you sell quite well. My exhibitions that I've done, I mean, let's say 80% of the work is sold at one day. A lot of people. Sorry. And then you maybe sell some during the exhibition, and then you sell at the very end of the exhibition again. Yeah. So for me, you know, the galleries I'm working with, you know, they're always saying the best what can happen, Jan, is when you're present and when we create events where you can speak and share your heart behind the pictures and the story behind it. And then, and when this is happening, it's full. You know, and that's the other thing I discovered. The collectors want to have the connection to the artist. Maybe in a higher price range, it's not like this. Yeah, but in this price range where I am at, I have the feeling they really want the connection.
I agree with you, and it's something that I have. You know, I've had the greatest successes selling work when I have a chance to speak with people about the work.
Yeah.
It's it's really, it's absolutely
Absolutely.
vital. You know, I've had this experience with a number of pictures where people didn't understand the work that I was showing, and then I explained it to them, and it was like their eyes being open, like, you know, the classical, you know, the blind seeing.
Yeah.
And so I fully get it, but maybe there's a way to do that, which is a bit different, because if we change the format of the gallery, and this is one of the things technically that I'm looking at, if I change the format of the gallery into a video based experience, like all right, I have to make a larger loop here. If I imagine I have at home, I'm a client, I'm a buyer, and I have at home a large screen and I have a webcam. And so I can have a conference where I'm looking at a picture, not on the size of my laptop as I am now, but on, you know, like a nicely sized monitor where I can, you know, with good color,
Yeah.
where I can see. And as a buyer could communicate with me on the other end as a gallerist, where I have a viewing room where I'm not showing you digital assets. I'm literally taking pictures and putting them in front of the camera on a stand or on some kind of presentation experience.
Yeah.
So you can actually see, and I can discuss with you, and we can basically go back and forth and discuss what it is that's being looked at. So that's one way that I'm thinking about. Another, I don't think that the gallery exhibitions as public spaces are going to disappear. I'm actually hoping that this entire COVID-19 adventure may actually become a windfall for us, because as galleries, my gallery space is local, which means
Yeah.
that people in Cologne, in my case, they can get into the streetcar and come to my gallery. It's big enough that when you walk in, you're not going to be sneezed on by walking in as you would if you go to a Starbucks. So
Yeah.
we have that. So it becomes kind of like a micro museum, which is safe and local, and you can
Yeah.
buy art there. And maybe buyers will come back to the local galleries and start supporting the local artistic community, as opposed to always going to fairs, because the fairs will disappear and they will need to find that work somewhere else.
Yeah.
You know, and who knows, maybe the online platforms and having work at least visible on a platform as a first step could become a new ritual.
Yeah.
Where you go to a homepage, you see work, or you find it somewhere, and then you make a meeting, a video meeting with the gallery, and then they show you the work, and then we can deal with things like shipping. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
every piece of work, unless it's something huge, particularly in photography, can be shipped without any major issues.
Yeah.
And,
Sure. Sure.
you know, and if we
I
have
think
insurance policies that cover that, then it ends up becoming a non-risk or a very low risk adventure.
Yeah. I think this idea, you know, with showing the original print on a screen, that is definitely better than showing a JPEG on a screen, you know, because people are so used and so tired of this you know, looking at a digital image. But when you hold up a real print, it will be different. That's what I believe. So tomorrow, you know, I'm doing big new things on Instagram, because I'm collecting collectors on Instagram. I sell most of my works, don't tell anyone, through Instagram, originals. It's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's a platform, and the art scene really, or the galleries have not discovered the importance of Instagram. The artists have.
We've been using Instagram. It's not that easy for a gallery. You know, an artist has, you as an artist have the great advantage that if I as a collector buy a work from you on Instagram, I feel like I'm getting the best price and I'm supporting you directly, which is true, you know, because you're making more money, I'm paying less, and everyone's happy. You know, I mean, the galleries aren't happy because they're being kind of cut out of the deal. And I, as a gallerist, am thinking, well, wait a second, I'm helping my artists become well known. I'm fronting the bill for all of that. My artist isn't paying as much because they don't have as much to do. Or not as financially impactful. Let's put it that way. You know, because running a gallery is just ridiculously expensive.
Of course. But you know, the downside is, if you know, the artist needs the gallery. Without the gallery, there is no reputation.
Right.
So this gives me credibility. So the artist needs to be fair. That's the key. So I cannot sell cheaper, you know, than if I sell through a gallery. That would not be fair. Also, I always ask, how did you find me or this picture? Why are you interested? And if I hear, you know, I saw it at Paris Photo, or I was in Munich at the exhibition, then of course I refer immediately to the gallery. Yeah, it needs to be fair. But if the guy says, well, I'm following you on Instagram since 3 years, I'm always excited to see your new prints, and I was saving for 3 years to finally buy one. It's amazing. I find a new collector, and I would like to connect this collector to a gallery. Yeah. So
yeah, I understand, and I mean, it's great that you see that. I think with a certain degree of success, there's of course always the option, or not the option, but you know, people who, like artists who aren't hurting for money as much, can have a larger view. And this is generally confirms the experience I've had with the artists that I represent, that the artists all are very fair. It's a back and forth. So, you know, and it becomes a discussion thing, like, where did the sale come from? Who,
exactly.
And so on. So that all makes perfect sense. But still, getting back to Instagram, because what I'm interested in there is, how does that actually happen? Do they PM you?
Yeah.
And ask about the work, and then it becomes an email sale?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how it works. You know, I'm always surprised how little the galleries are using their artists for growing their Instagram. You know, I have the coolest stories on Instagram when it comes to darkroom, when it comes to behind the scene, and my Instagram is growing fast. Yeah. And I'm always telling my galleries, why are you not using my stuff to grow your Instagram and to promote my pictures? Yeah, because the best material they can get is my material right out of the darkroom. This is when the collectors see, wow, something new is happening. I'm interested in this. Yeah, and new people find it. And the artist even could tag always the gallery. That's what I'm doing. You know, I tagged Imagis, you know, it was working in the darkroom. I tagged Imagis so that they would automatically know this picture will be available at Imagis. Yeah. Yeah. And I mention Imagis from time to time. And then from time to time, they put it in the story. And I think you should do this every day. You know, this is how you grow your followership. But the galleries, you know, the strength of the galleries, I believe, are the artist, the creativity of the artist. And if they are able to show this in their story or Instagram TV or Instagram Live, I think this would grow so much.
I agree. I still think that there's another hurdle to get through, which I have experienced in many conversations. That people are scared of gallerists.
Yeah, that's true.
And anybody who reaches out, like I see this at my gallery, literally the storefront. I have a gallery where there's, you know, a glassed in door, like an entryway kind of, which you have to walk into before you can actually enter the store. And people will walk up to the door and they will look through the windows and not come into the gallery because they're scared that if they come in, I'm going to expect them to buy something, and they don't want to have that pressure.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. Because
it's
I'm
ridiculous.
not there.
Let me offer an alternative interpretation to that. I walk up to galleries and look in and go, I'm not interested in looking at anything any closer. It's not that I'm afraid of anything, but it's just like, well, no, I can see enough from the door.
Yeah, but James, man, first off, hi, good to hear you.
Hi, sorry,
good to
late.
or to hear you again. You come with a really loaded experience, so that you have to qualify that. James was
let me offer an alternative interpretation to a little bit earlier in your discussion about younger people going to museums. I think that's good. I think they're going for scholarship possibly. The age dropping is good for the future of online and video operations with galleries. I think that particularly photographs interpret very well, translate very well is a word that I like to use, to this experience, the video experience. That yes, you can't substitute the experience for a real gelatin silver print, but if somebody knows, most people particularly interested in photography know what that is, so that by seeing the image, they have a much better idea of the object than if it was a painting or something like that, or sculpture. So I think there's a lot of advantages here for the future for particularly photo galleries, and the age dropping. Younger people don't have as much money, so it's not like you're going to have the $100,000, $200,000 pieces or $1 million pieces of art online, although that does sell out of a gallery. But you were talking also about your Instagram. That's good for both galleries and artists, I think, that the gallery adds authenticity and provenance to the artist. So I think it's very important, as you were speaking about involving the artist through your Instagram. So I think all of that portends for a pretty exciting future for galleries online and particularly photo galleries.
I agree. You know, I think there is an opportunity here, but I think the devil is in the details, if you will, because first off, there's a lot of technological capacity. I know most galleries are really, really bad with technology, at least when it comes to the level of people who are actually responsible for what the gallery is doing. So it's going to be a hurdle, and it also, it's the same kind of engagement. I mean, if you're going to commit as a potential buyer to bind my time as a salesperson by committing to a video conference, first off, you're telling me who you are, because you can't join the conference without me at least somehow being able to figure out who you are. So you can't just walk in and say, oh, I'm Mr. Smith, and be anonymous. And it's a proactive process of engaging with a gallerist, which brings me back to the concern that I've at least had, that people really are scared of gallerists because they think, first off, that we're cutthroats and that we're always trying to rip people off, and also that all we want to do is get you to buy a picture no matter what. Which,
but here's let me the chance for scholarship is here. As you're pointing out, some people are afraid to come in, but they're not afraid to be online in an anonymous situation. So if the scholarship that you produce that it takes a staff to produce, that energy is put into being able to make it available online. I think you'll find a lot more people that will learn about what you have. The opportunity to create a relationship through data, if you will, and the energy in hanging a show goes into creating the online presence, understanding the psychology and the sociology of it. The staffing might be a little bit different. You don't need the art handlers necessarily. You need some other staffing arrangement, and I think that's, you know, the transitioning part of this.
Yeah, I can see that. So you're saying that the actual exhibition space should die?
No, I'm saying that using the technology, there's the walkthrough technology that a lot of museums are using and some galleries are beginning to use. I think that gives it a presence. People can still come in and see it. And there's also, people are learning to look at images on the screen and understand in a different way what it is. And I think old folks like me have to stay active and aware of what's going on. The younger people are just automatically making that transition. So transition and translation, that I don't think that we need to worry that much about it, that people will seek out, if they have the ability to seek out the information that's available. I think you can show a whole portfolio as part of the scholarship, and then you can offer images, objects for sale out of that. It has to be a different way of looking at the presence of a show, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you know, this is the big challenge that I think all of us as gallerists are dealing with right now. Let me
Absolutely.
let me show you this here, which it would be impossible to do as an online exhibition. This was a Rosalind Solomon show that I did, a portfolio of pictures that she had taken in 1980 in Brazil. And as you can see, I hung the pictures between plexiglass on a single thread of fishing wire. And so the pictures reacted to you moving through the space. So this exhibition could only be experienced properly by going into the room and seeing these objects rotating. And when you walk by them, the pictures would rotate. And so it became, in a manner, it was walking through and discovering the pictures the way Rosalind herself had discovered them. You know, and this is the kind of thing that I would very much miss, because a digital surface is flat. You know, a screen, no matter how high resolution it is, it's still flat and it's not interactive in that sense. I mean, it's not virtual reality.
I think there still needs to be an exploration of the medium, this medium that we're dealing with right now, that we're working through, in that they're set a camera on a tripod and do a video of it turning. Do the walkthrough, and then you can drop pins, and then you can have details about it. Those kinds of things need to be explored on your behalf. Like, yes, there is an experiential aspect to a show like that, and to many shows, but there's still ways that with wisdom and experience you can begin to explain what it is. Not it's still about translation. It's still about translation. Some things are going to translate better than others.
Yeah, agreed. So what we can deduce is that it's not easy.
Yeah, and you can just decide not to show things like that.
Yeah, I'll just
not really.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me touch on one last topic, as I have just a few. Oh, actually, I'm over my actually planned time, but that's okay, because this is, I think, an interesting conversation. You know, the question of the process of purchasing, which anytime we're talking about big money, you know, and you know, for some it'll be a couple of hundred, but let's assume that big money is a picture that's worth 10,000 or more. Then you know, there's a whole new layer of nervousness. And I asked, I put in the poll about would you buy a picture from galleries in a different country? And 67% of you said yes, but only if I knew them. Right. So what does that mean?
But let me point out, knowing them is different, has different meaning for different people. You can have an online presence and people can know you online, and that goes for knowing. We can't be stuck in the old way of knowing, going in and shaking hands or bumping elbows or whatever we're going to do today. But knowing is not necessarily in person, face to face.
Oh, I agree. But we're dealing with the new challenge of how do we get the first call to action? Like, how do we get the first client to move forward?
Well, it's time, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, the internet and shops and all that. In the beginning, everyone was like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy anything over the internet," and now people buy almost everything they buy over the internet.
Exactly.
So maybe it'll just happen as a natural growth and a natural development out of the situation being what it is and the technology being available.
Well, there's a tremendous amount of art sold online these days. So there's no reason to not expect it to grow exponentially.
Yeah.
I think, okay, out of the...
You have the advantage of being known.
Yeah, a bit. Hasn't helped much. But Jan, Jan, go ahead.
I think the important thing is, now talking from the artist side, I have this list of galleries that are representing my work. Yeah.
Right.
And so someone, and this really happened, or someone is interested in a work, and they contact all the galleries on my list. Yeah, or almost.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah. So, and then, half of them did not respond to them, or responded after a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, if we, and no collector likes that, that wants to spend 10,000 euro on a picture,
Yeah.
That's what, a collector wants to feel somehow important.
As they should. I mean,
yeah, and they are.
Absolutely.
So I think it's details often, it's a response time. I think it's the crucial thing. The gallery that responds the fastest has the deal. This is my experience.
Yeah.
The price is on all galleries always the same. I make that sure, and they know what edition number is available and so on. But it's response time. And then, of course, what they are also doing, because they don't know those galleries, they go to ArtNet and look up these galleries if they are real good galleries.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. So it's the reputation, the online reputation they are having.
And that's actually interesting. The online reputation is the foundation of the darknet, which is really curious. In the darknet, there's no regress opportunity, which means if you get ripped off in the darknet, then you've gotten ripped off. And so the dealers in the darknet are extremely prudent to make sure that their reputation is upkept, because there's no other way to keep themselves in business, even though their business is generally illegal.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting kind of, or curious side fact to all of it.
Yeah.
No, but speed, Jan, that's accurate. People, and that becomes then another technological issue, is how do these platforms, for example, communicate? Like, how do they push information?
Yeah.
In my particular case, if I deal with 3 different platforms and I have clients in 5 different time zones,
I know.
then it becomes a major issue because I only work 8 hours. Well, actually, I work a lot more than 8 hours a day, but I officially only work 8 hours a day. And it becomes a challenge. But you know, those are technical issues. But I think it's important that we make a note of them in the conversation, that those are some of the challenges that technology can help solve. Automated communications, automatic responses, you know, even just to get the ball rolling. If there's a request that comes in, to send something back and say, hey, look, I got your message. I'm on the road. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. You know, it's like when you walk into a restaurant and the waiter comes by and gives you a glass of water. It's nothing. It's just a glass of water, but you feel like you've arrived.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be key. All right, well, listen, gentlemen, this has been very, very interesting and helpful for me. Thank you very, very much for
I like it.
For active interaction. I'll be back on Thursday. I think Thursday I'm going to be doing this from the warehouse again. So I'll be looking at some more pictures, and I'll keep everyone updated. And Jan, I have now officially followed you on Twitter, on Instagram. And,
how wonderful! I have one more.
Yes, you have on top of your 63.5 thousand followers.
35.
Which is
so Julian, I really would like to get to know you personally. You know, I was with Tamara last year in contact several times. And you were always out of the house, and she always said, oh my goodness, he's gone. I really wanted to get to know you personally. And maybe show you, if you are interested, show you my works. Would be an honor. All my work is pure analog, darkroom, platinum, silver, gelatine, nothing digital. Okay.
I'm a fan of great work. I don't really care much for the medium as long as it lasts long enough for its given purpose. So
it lasts long.
But
and we'll all be dead before it fades.
Yeah, we'll all be, seriously, like silver gelatin. None of us are going to outlive these pictures, right?
Right.
But Jan, as soon as the coronavirus situation has settled in a bit and travel becomes more possible, then let's find a date.
Yes, let's do this.
Okay.
I hope you're doing fine somehow and staying safe over there. I assume for a gallery must be a nightmare, this situation. This must be.
It is. It's an absolute nightmare. I have no capacity to sell much of anything to anybody.
Yeah.
There is almost no way to do it, because most of the museums and most of the major collectors connected to them, they're paying their endowments, have all lost ridiculous amounts of money, or many of them have lost ridiculous amounts of money due to the stock market collapse. And nobody's traveling, of course, because of said situation. And so everything which is why I'm discussing this today, everything that we're used to doing to sell art isn't happening.
Yeah.
And that's why this question becomes such a pertinent question at this stage. We have to figure out how to get through this, and I'm sure we will. You know, these things will crystallize, and the things that work best are the ones that will survive. But I think it behooves us all to be ahead of the game and to be thinking about these things actively, to figure out if there's a way to help each other. And and maybe as a last thought, one of the things that I find very annoying about all the platforms is that in the end, I'm trying to, I primarily deal in secondary markets, so I don't have 1 to n of any given object. I generally deal with unique objects, and when I'm selling that, and if I have it out on 4 or 5 different platforms, that becomes really difficult for me to keep the data synchronized, because how do you, it shows up in 5 platforms. If I sell it in 1, there needs to be a really simple way for it to be marked sold in all the others. Because the worst thing that can happen to me is somebody writes me and says, oh, well, it's on the homepage, or even worse, on an active purchasing site. Like if, Artsy is now allowing purchases through Stripe, so you can directly buy through Artsy artworks. But if I have that same artwork on ArtNet and on Ocula, and then if I sign up for First Dibs and I have it there and Artsy sells it, then all the others need to know that right away. But there's no technology to synchronize. Well, there is. I built it. I just haven't put it online yet. But that's the kind of thing that needs to happen, because it's going to, it's going to cause chaos at some point.
Julian, the solution is staffing.
And who's going to pay for them?
Social media. Find a high school kid. Social media experts. But yes, exactly. That's the problem.
Yeah. All right. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you for being here. I very much enjoyed it.
This was awesome. Thank you for the initiative and making this amazing show here. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Jan.
See you next week.
Yes.
Or Thursday.
On Thursday it is. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.